This bar in here is called a torsion bar. Some of the old timers call it a dog bone, but we want to check and make sure it's not bent or cracked or damaged. Also up here on this front axle, I also like to do my suspension and my brakes while I'm here because I can see them all right here. This is my brake chamber, just like it's on the front. The only difference is this is a spring brake. It's a double chamber. But I'm going to check it the same way I did at the front. Make sure my lines are secure, they're not leaking or dry rotted. This in here is my push rod, just like on the front. And that's my slack adjuster. It's a little bigger back here on this spring brake. But how I want to check them is I have to release the brakes inside the truck. I shouldn't be able to pull that push rod out more than 1 inch with the brakes released. I'm also going to check my brake pads in here just like I did on the front. Still a quarter inch of brake pads. Checking my brake drum, make sure I don't see any cracks or damage to my drum. I'm also going to check my suspension back here. These are my leaf springs for my suspension. My U-bolts, make sure they're secure. They haven't been moving at any point in time. Yeah. These are my leaf spring mounts. My leaf spring mounts, make sure it's properly mounted to my frame, and I'm also going to check my frame while I'm back here. Make sure I don't see any cracks or damage to my frame. I'm also going to check the bulkhead of my trailer, make sure I don't see any damage to my bulkhead. There's a clearance light at the top, right at the very top. I'm making sure it's not cracked or damaged and it's the proper color. Now we're going to move to the coupling system. Now on my test day, I only have to check one of these axles. I don't have to check on both. So whatever I checked on the front, I don't have to worry about checking on the back. But what I want to check now, this is called my trailer apron. This is my fifth wheel skid. What I'm looking for is I don't want to see any gap in between there right now. I know the truck's a little unlevel and I do see one, but I'm going to check this handle, make sure it's in the lock position. This is my fifth wheel slide. I can adjust this fifth wheel back and forth. I want to make sure those locking pins right there are in the lock position. Also, I want to cover my airbag here while I'm here. And this is also my back leaf spring. I covered it on the front, but that's your spring mounts. Then we're going to move back to the back. I like to crawl up under here so I can see everything. I want to check my fifth wheel. You'll see that kingpin and the fifth wheel locking jaw. Making sure it's locked around that kingpin, it's secure. Back here also I want to check my turn signal, four ways, and brake lights, and my reflectors. Making sure they're clean, they're not cracked, they're not damaged, they're proper color. I want to check my mud flaps, make sure they're secure, they're not touching the ground. And I've got DOT tape on the back, and it's 50% visible. I also want to check these cross members on my trailer, I mean. And I'm going to turn around, I'm going to look at them all the way to the back of the trailer. Make sure I don't see any damage to any of them. Then I'm also going to check my landing gear. Making sure I don't see any damage to my landing gear. All the bolts are present. They're not loose or damaged. Then as I'm coming out from underneath the tractor, I want to check this space in between my tires right here. That's called a bud spacing. I'm looking for any kind of debris or rock or anything might be stuck in between there, or the two tires could be even bulging and touching each other. I'm going to check these tires too. These have to be at least 2 30-seconds. These can be mismatched tires, but they cannot be mismatched size. But they can be mismatched tread. They can also be re-grooved tires or retreaded tires. I want to check my rim, making sure I don't see any damage to my rim. That's my valve stem. That's where I check my air and add air. Make sure you got a dust cap on there. Checking all my lug nuts, make sure they're all present. None of them look like they've been loose or rust around them anywhere. This is called an axle seal. This is has to be checked by a mechanic. Basically, if you see any oil around it, you just want to get a mechanic and get that checked because it can make a mess on you. I want to take an overall look at my trailer. Make sure I don't see any damage to my trailer. I got DOT tape on the side. It's 50% visible. I'm gonna check my turn signal, four-way, and marker light. Make sure it's not cracked or damaged. It's proper color. Then I'm gonna move into my tandem system. These are my tandem air lines. They have to be at least 18 inches off of the ground. Just like on the front, I had a torque bar. The trailer has a torsion bar, and it's right here. It looks just like the other one, it's just turned a little different ways. These are my tandem slide pins, and I can slide these tandems up and back as far as I'll need to adjust them, but I want to make sure that locking pin is in the lock position and my release handle is in the lock position. I want to check my door hanger, make sure it's secure. And from back here, I'm going to check my braking system just like I did on the front. I can see it all right here. Here's my brake chamber. This is also a spring brake. There's my air lines that run into my brake chamber. This is my push rod that runs into my slack adjuster, my brake pads, and my brake drum. My brake pads have to have at least 1/4 inch, just like it did on the front. Then I'm going to cover my suspension. These are my leaf springs for my trailer, the U-bolts, and my mounting bolts. Also, I'll check these mud flaps. Make sure they're not touching the ground. And I don't have to have DOT tape on these. I'm going to check my tandem tires. These also have to be at least 2 30-seconds in tread. They have to be the same size, but they can also be mismatched tread. They can also be regrooved or retreaded tires. Check the outside of my tire, look for any kind of cracks or bulges. Checking my rim, just like I did on the front. My valve stem. That's where I add air, put air in if I need to. Make sure you got a dust cap on it. Checking all my lug nuts, make sure they're all present. None of them look like they've been loose or have any rust or debris around them. This is just like on the front. This is called a hub oil seal also. You can check it by taking that cap off. I want to check this marker light back here on the back, make sure it's not cracked or damaged, and it's the proper color. I'm going to move to the back of my trailer. I'm checking all my door hinges to make sure they're not cracked or damaged. They're all secure. The hinges are not broke or cracked or damaged. Also, I want to check this weather stripping around my doors. Make sure it's all present around my doors. Check my door handles, make sure they're secure. These are my door locks. It's what keeps your doors open. You want to make sure those are there. I'm going to check my turn signals and four-ways and marker lights back here. Making sure they're not cracked or damaged and proper color. Check my license plate, make sure it's up to date, and my license plate light. This is called an ICC bar or a DOT bar. I'm making sure it's not cracked or damaged, it's secure, and it also has DOT tape on it and it's 50% visible.